Greetings, folks. Welcome to the Great Scots Roundtable. This is the Great Scots, and I would like to welcome you to a very special roundtable. We have a Great Scots Roundtable first today. This is the very first time that I have interviewed a cast for the second time. Many of you might have remembered me telling you all that I really enjoyed a show that at the time was on Amazon Prime called Vindication, which some of us believe is the very first faith-based cop show that they ever carried on their platform. Well, I'm happy to say that the show was popular enough that they got a second season. And one thing that I decided upon was the fact that I wanted to get the cast together for that after that second season had already been released and talk about the second season. And I'm happy to say that I've got all 4 cast members who did the first roundtable back, as well as the show's creator, 2 new cast members, and a mystery guest who will be introduced very shortly. Thank you all for being here. How are you all doing?
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you. It's nice to see you all. Okay, let's start right off the bat here and see who we have for today. Well, first up, we have the gentleman who is still to this day the only person to ever appear in every single episode of Vindication. He plays Detective, now Sergeant, Gary Travis. Please say hello to Mr. Todd Terry.
Hey, everyone.
How you doing? Nice to see you. All right, next up, one of the things that every I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble here. There's apparently I did a Zoom upgrade just before we started, and now it's a little bit hard to follow here. But anyway, next up, we have the gal who used to be Detective Travis's partner, but now she's in Precinct 1 with Sergeant Tomlinson. She plays the role of Chris. I looked and I could not find her last name. Please say hello to Venus Monique. How are you doing, Venus?
Hi, I am well, thank you.
Glad
You
to
mean
see
my legal last name or my acting last name?
No. I couldn't find your character's last name.
Oh, Chris Tanner.
Chris Tanner. Okay. Yeah, IMDb only has your character listed as Chris. I don't know why I couldn't find that. I don't know. Anyway, I always mess something up on these things. I don't know why. All right. Next up, we have the guy who was the man in charge last season, and this season he has become the guy as an audience you love to hate. Please say hello to Sergeant Bill Tomlinson himself, Mr. Steve Mokate. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, everybody.
There we are. All right. Next up, we have Detective Travis's partner, not on the field, but partner at home. And this season, we get to see her reaching out to a women's prison ministry, which results in some neat twists in the show that we are going to talk about. Please say hello to the actress who plays Becky Travis, Peggy Schott. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Okay. And one of the great things, it's great to have you all back. You all did my first roundtable. So it's great to have you guys again. Next up, when a show gets its second season, one thing that always happens is you get new cast members, and such has happened this season. Now that Detective Travis is in Precinct 2, he has a brand new office assistant, I believe is her title. Please say hello to the actress who plays Janet, the person who is always in Detective Travis's corner, Candace Kirkpatrick. How are you doing?
I am swell. Thank you so much.
It is so nice to have you here. And next, we have somebody who many of you will recognize from the film Overcomer. I just had to say that. And I was just delighted when I saw him pop up on Vindication. And his character actually goes through some stuff that I also want to talk about on the show. Please welcome the actor who plays Joe Anderson, Mr. Cameron Arnett.
Hello, everyone.
Nice to see you. And last but certainly not least, before we get to our mystery guest, we have a gentleman here who has not been here since my director's roundtable. This is only his second time on my roundtable. He was supposed to come to the first Vindication roundtable, but he had a very good excuse. He had some things that he had to take care of for season 2 happening that made it so that he couldn't join. But he is here today, and it's just thrilled to have him here. He is the guy who is the reason that why all this happened. He is the writer, producer, and director and creator of Vindication, Mr. Jared O'Flaherty. How you doing, sir?
Thank you, Scott, for what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, anyway, now it's time to, with the exception of Jared, nobody knows who this mystery guest is who I have invited. Well, I thought it would be fun to do something that I have never done on my roundtable before, which is get the perspective of somebody maybe who is not a part of the show on screen. Many of you know that I'm a fan of this show, that goes without saying. And I honestly thought that there was no one on the face of the planet whose fandom could top mine when it comes to my enthusiasm for Vindication. Well, I was wrong. And one thing that shows cannot survive without is fans. And one place that a lot of Vindication fandom has been during this season is on a Facebook page called Vindy Nation. Oh. Would you all please welcome the director of Vindy Nation Facebook page, Mr. Dave Eberts. Dave, turn on your.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
I was gonna say it's either gonna be Dave or Maurice Brown. One of those two guys. Yay!
Yes.
I thought
Anyway,
it was
one of
going to be the
other
guy in the body bag.
Oh,
Maybe
we'll
he
get
is in the
into-
body
yeah.
bag.
We'll get into that, Dave. We'll get into that. You know, it's funny. You know, I was going to mention this later, but maybe I should just say it now real quickly. When I asked Dave to come here, I had said one of the reasons why I asked him to come here is, as I mentioned to you all before we started, you know, I only had a chance to watch the season 2 through once before we did this. And so as a fan, I had asked Dave, you know, just in case I run out of stuff to say, I know that's impossible, but just in case I run out of stuff to say, I asked him, I said, why don't you prepare some questions to maybe ask the cast yourself? Like maybe 5 questions. And he goes, oh, sure. Here are the questions that were asked. Who's in the body bag? Is Bill Tomlinson still alive? Is Anthony still alive? Whose face did Detective Travis close in episode 10? Give us a spoiler of who died at the end. Yeah. With the exception of the guy right at the bottom, I think with the exception of Jared, I don't think anybody knows the answer to those questions. So I don't think that those would really go anywhere. Anyway, we'll get to those eventually. But Dave, thanks for taking time to be here with us. I appreciate it. The one thing that I want to, okay, that's the introductions right there. Let's get on to the questions here. The one thing that I'd like to start, and this is a actor question, mainly for Todd, Steve, Peggy, and Venus, because you're all back from season 1. One common question I've noticed a lot of interviewers ask when they're talking to somebody on a show, when they're talking to somebody who's like doing a sequel or whatever, is what it's like getting back into character. Now, Jared, please help me here. How long was it between when you wrapped on season 1 and when you started season 2?
About a year and a half.
Okay, and is that how much? I know that there's a time jump in between as well, because Travis is at a new station. How long is that? How long is supposed to have taken place in between the seasons as well?
Yeah, on screen time we played it that it was about 2 years because Katie Travis has obviously had her son and he's up and walking around and those sort of things. So about 2 years is what we called it.
All right. Okay. So obviously the actors who had been with the season during 1 had to fill in, some of the blanks as an actor as to what their characters had been through. So I would like the 4 of you to maybe tell us, what was it like getting back into character? Were you surprised at where your characters went, or what was that like? Just speak a little to that. Who would like to go first?
Well, I'll answer because I know what Todd's thinking. I'm not acting. I'm really a jerk in real life. I'll just get it over with. I know he's dying to say that. So, no, for me, it was really easy.
Oops, I lost you. I don't know where you went there. Hold on. Sorry. I'm still getting used to this. Sorry about this, folks. I don't know what happened. Oh, man, this is this far. I updated my Zoom just before we started this. So
it's not you.
Is all okay?
Yeah, it's not you. It's Steve's negative personality that's causing disruption.
Oh, great. This is my hold on here. Wait a second. Okay, I think I got it here. There you are. You're back. Sorry about that.
I was just saying, for me, it was easy because the writing's so good. It's really easy to get into a character if you have such good writing, and the character's kind of sitting there right there waiting for you to take over. So for me, it's easy.
Okay. Were you surprised at where Tomlinson went? Because he's kind of, I don't know. He's, he was basically just the head of the station last time. Not to pigeonhole you or anything, but it's crystal clear some stuff has happened to you that have made you a little bit more.
No, I was a little surprised at how dark he went, but Jared did give me a heads up that I was going down a bad road, but he went further than I knew, and who knows how much further it's going to go. I don't know that.
All right. Todd, Peggy, Venus, you guys got anything to say about your characters?
I will speak. I remember our first day back on set. Because we were supposed to have started filming earlier, but because of COVID, things got pushed back. And so there was no being on set, hardly any being around any people for a long time before we all got together. And that first day, I was in the hair and makeup room, and Emma walked in, and we're on the other side of the room from each other. And we both have our masks on, and we're like, we wanted to hug. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and we're like, do you think we remember how to do this? Because it had been a long time. Just even being around people. But during the time that we were off, my daughter had our first grandchild. And the very first scene that we shot for, as I recall, for season 2 was the video call with Katie and the baby. And that's something I had been doing with my daughter and grandson. So kind of that was easy to pick up because that was so much like real life.
Very nice. Todd, Venus, you guys got anything to add?
Go ahead, Venus.
For me, yeah, jumping back into character was pretty easy peasy. I loved where my character went in season 2. I hated that I was separated from Todd, but because we didn't get to film a whole bunch of scenes together in season 2. But yeah, jumping back into character was pretty easy peasy. I guess because the backstory that I have for myself, and then just Jared's writing, it all flows together. And so yeah.
I predicted we were going to see more of your brother. It was kind of interesting. I didn't predict where his fate was going to go, but I wondered if we were going to see more of your brother based on what we had heard during season 1. So good job on that there, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how about you, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I concur with what Venus said. I miss filming with Venus because we had such I think a great relationship in season 1 that was developing, and then all of a sudden everything gets shut down. And we don't know. I mean, maybe Steve knew some things when he talked to Jared, but we knew very little. At least I did. And so that's why I enjoy about it, because we get new episodes, and it's just as fun and engaging for us as actors, I think, to find out where our character is going. And as Travis goes, that I think season 2 was kind of a bit of his sanctification as a new believer. So that was fun to follow those pitfalls and successes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you one thing: the storyline with your mom being, Jared, I will admit this, I kind of saw it coming at the end of the episode, but when someone said, when the minute Peggy looked at the actress who played Todd's mother the way she did, I'm like, I'll bet you that's Travis's mother, because he had just said in the previous, but nevertheless, it was a great story. So I'd like to ask Cameron and Candace now. Candace, okay, that's interesting. Isn't Candace Cameron an actress? I think she is. Okay, but anyway, I'd like to ask Candace. That's weird. I'd like to ask Candace and Cameron now. How did you know about the show before you got involved in the show, and how did you get involved in the show? I don't know who'd like to go first.
Go ahead, Candace.
I was at a film festival in March 2019, and I saw an episode of Vindication that was screening there. And I went and introduced myself to Jared, and I didn't tell him I was an actress or anything like that. I just told him that I loved what he was doing and the message he was putting out, and how it was relevant to our culture and how it would impact people in an incredible way. And I said, I'm committing to pray for you and your show every day. That's how I met Jared.
Awesome. Okay.
11 months later, he called me.
And we're all happy for it.
Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me.
What a great character. What a great character. And you do it so well. For me, I had known about Vindication, although I had not seen it, but I must say the reason why I knew about it is because I am a heavy Todd Terry fan. And I think Todd, seriously speaking, I think Todd is just one of those rare actors, and we are extremely blessed by having him within the Christian mode of storytelling. And so I look to see some phenomenal things. All things being equal, Todd should be up there just like any major star. So I'm a big fan. And so I knew about the Vindication because of that, but I had never seen it. But when I heard that Jared had reached out to my agent and everything else, as far as being on the show, I binged the first season, and I was hooked. It to me, it was just one of the best pieces of writing and work that I had seen in the Christian medium. And I was so excited to, I think as actors, we all want to be in something that we can just like grit our teeth and get into and bite it and work. And so when I saw the first season, I was ecstatic that I would be a part of something this great. And I knew, and I still know, that it's a piece of history for us as in the Christian forum, that we're getting an opportunity to actually bite into Vindication and to be a part of something that's so good. So I'm very happy about that.
It's definitely one of the things that are changing things. I can't say where I heard this, but I did hear somebody once say that shows like this and The Chosen are starting to make mainstream platforms think, hey, maybe there's a market for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there are I can't tell you how I know that, and I can't tell you who they are, but there are people who are starting that you wouldn't think are starting to look for that. And I hope I don't say too much. Okay, Jared, time to ask you something here. I wanted to know, did you know where the direction that the second season was going to go? Like, I've told you in the past that I am a little bit of an aficionado when it comes to cop shows. And I was very surprised when Jared told me that he had never watched any cop shows prior to writing this show, because I was like, for somebody who doesn't watch cop shows, you really know the genre, buddy. You hit all the beats, and you even improve some of them. But as far as I know, there has never been a cop show that's premise for even a season is kind of a rivalry between precincts. I don't know. Now, maybe there has been, and I've never seen it, but this is, I actually had somebody actually compared it to the second season of Cobra Kai. That one is dojo versus dojo. This is precinct versus precinct. So yes, thank you, Dave. Okay. So, but anyway, yeah, Jared and I are both fans of that show. That's another roundtable right there. So just talk a little bit about how you just talk about how did you decide that? Oh, I forgot to mention this when we started. For anybody watching, in case you haven't guessed by now, this is not a spoiler-free roundtable. We are talking about season 2. The reason why we waited until season 2 was out was because I wanted to make sure that everybody, as many people as possible, had a chance to see it. So we are talking about stuff that if you haven't seen season 2, you might have some spoilers. So Jared, anyway, if you could speak a little bit to that, that'd be great.
Okay, so going into season 2, I knew that I wanted it to be different than season 1. There were cues that we got from audience members of what they appreciated the most. One of those was like, hey, I like the crime stuff that's happening, but I really love these characters and their storylines and what's going on with their families and their character arcs. So I knew we wanted to change the focus on that. There were little moments that I knew were going to happen, particularly with Chris's brother. You know, we knew that was something we wanted to do in season 2 and build up to it. And then Cameron's character, I know the first time that he and I talked about it, I kind of knew what the arc was going to be there. And I'm like, hey, how do you feel about this? And he said, I love it. I love it. You know, let's get real. Let's tell the real stories, because, you know, early on when we meet his character, everyone calls him the pastor, but I'm like, nowhere does it ever say he's the pastor. He's just leading the men's group, right? So anybody's ever been to a men's group, there's always some guy who's kind of organized. It doesn't mean he's the pastor. Anyway, so I knew that he was going to be the guy, you know, bringing a lot of truth. He was going to lead the prayers. He was going to be reading scripture, those sort of things. And sometimes people watching Christian films, that's what they kind of yawn at. Like, oh, no, here we go. You know, I go to church every Sunday to get this, not, you know, turn on my TV. So I knew, hey, we're going to have a lot of that, but then there's going to be something come up later on that digs even deeper. But yeah, Cameron said he loved it. So there were certain moments we knew we were going to go towards in season 2, but there's a lot of fill in the blanks and how do we get there that came up during the development process.
All right. Cool. Now I have a question here. Now this is actually for everybody, including you, Dave. Okay, so you can answer this as well. Okay, you can answer this as a viewer, and the rest of you can answer it as the actors and the director of the show. In season 2, does anybody have a favorite episode?
I personally love episode 9, and my character is not even in it. I love episode 6, The Facade, just because of the issues they're addressing. I think they're impactful and necessary.
Yeah, I would say number 9 as well. Venus was unbelievable. That was number 9, right? The funeral thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was top-notch writing and acting. It was amazing. You know, having a son my son was in infantry in Iraq, so that whole thing really hit home.
Yeah. No, that was very impactful. But I don't know if I have a favorite episode as much as I do the acting. Blew me away from episode 1 all the way through. And what I love about watching these actors is that, you know, you have, again, all these people here, you know, the main body and the main actors and everything else, but everyone, I don't care whether it was a day player, I don't care whether it was just like one episode, everyone hit their mark so well that it was intriguing from the very first episode on to the last. And I found myself rooting for what you would call the minor characters that came in, because they were just so good at portraying the character. You know, Doris just like tore me up, you know. So, I mean, all of that, I think, is just brilliant to be able to not only have a great cast in writing, but for everyone that's involved to be so much on that level. That's a godsend.
I'll chime in with that one too. Yeah, a lot of the people who came on for one episode or a few episodes, just really, really talented. I'm thinking Randy Perlman, I can't remember the name of his character, but the scene that he and Todd did on the sofa when he came to the house, that was just, absolutely fantastic. Daquan did such a wonderful job with everything he did. I can't even think of everybody's names. Soleil, yeah, she was wonderful. Lots of great supporting characters.
Yeah, something I would throw in there, and I even forget this, and Scott and Dave, you guys on the outside may forget this as well. You know, you see all these characters on the screen, but they haven't seen the other performances of other people, right? Like, I was there for all of it, but I don't realize, you know, Peggy never saw this character, or Venus, you know, she comes back and is like, Jared, there's so much of this show I haven't even seen. So when it comes out, these cast members are seeing it for the first time as well, and the performances, you know, so it could always go the opposite direction where they're watching and going, oh no, I know I did well, but these are bad, you know, but so it's great to hear that, you know, they go in wondering what it's going to look like as well. So, but it can be forgotten. You watch the show, you think everyone's standing around as the scenes are being filmed, and that's not really the case.
Yeah. If you look at the first round table, I'd completely forgotten that Steve and Peggy had never done a scene together. There's a scene, there's a moment where I put my foot in my mouth. And I can't remember. Did you guys finally get a scene together this season or not?
We didn't interact, but we were both in the city council scene.
That's what I thought.
And we were both at the football game.
In the flag football.
And the retirement
On
party.
set twice this season, but
retirement party. Yeah.
Yes. Anybody else want to chime in on a favorite episode here?
Yeah, I don't know the name off the top of my head. I haven't memorized the names of the episodes yet, but the one with the photographer and the number 6, just the character was like, anybody that's not obsessed with being, you know, Instagram famous could see this guy's a creep. He played it to the T, and I love the touch of the DeLorean that he's driving when he gets there. But I really like that episode because that was one of Todd's biggest moments in that episode. The laying the badge down and talking to her as a father instead of as a cop. That scene in of itself is like, it needs to go to the award shows. Like, you know, Todd Terry is the real deal. So as Cameron was mentioning, you know, Cameron says he's a heavy fan of Todd Terry, but I'm a little bit bigger than Cameron, so I'm a heavy. And so that episode was huge, and I loved the Man Up episode when Anthony just steps up and says, "Guys, this is the real deal," and you know, just it's like literally a moment of from the mouth of babes. It's a Timothy moment where don't be ashamed of your age, don't be ashamed of your experience, just preach the word. And I thought that those two really stick out because of those moments.
I have my two are the same as Candace, 9 and number 6. 9, the funeral scene, or just the military, because I have such a soft spot for the military. So I'm so thankful that I got to be a part of an episode that told that story. Even in the first season, was it episode 6, Jared, with Major Dodge? Okay. Yes. 7. Okay, that one too. Like, I was so grateful to just, my brother in the series is military, and just to get to be a part of that whole story. And then also Facade, because I'm so, just that whole social media thing. And I'm so glad that Jared did an episode on like I guess the power that it's got over people, of them trying to pursue the likes and the, you know, the online famous stuff. So those two, my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, look at what we're doing here. So this is about that. Yeah, that was one of my favorites too, not just because of the subject matter, but I like the DeLorean appearance at the end. I don't know if you can see the Back to the Future posters on my wall there. But anyway, one other thing that did anybody else have anything they wanted to add? I don't know if everybody spoke there.
I'll just add, Todd keeps telling me he's the real deal. Now I think
whatever.
I guess I'm on board.
I have a question, Jared. I asked you a few minutes ago, you know, what direction did you decide to go in? Did you come up with the Warren precincts because of these guys loving to bust each other's chops in real life?
We really don't do it that often. He's in his
Okay.
trailer with the door locked. I can't get to
Yeah.
the
All right. Okay.
So, let me just butt in real quick.
Of course, go right ahead.
Steve, would he have been the real deal if he actually got to you when he told the cops not to interfere in that courtroom scene?
Ooh, come on,
I wish
Dave.
Jared would let him
Preach.
do that. It would have been. For one thing, Jared, I forgot I asked you to do that, so I really would have been shocked.
Yes.
You know, I would have been crying. Todd would have been crying. It would change
Yeah.
the whole dynamic of the episode.
Well, for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, you should probably fill in the blanks. The town hearing scene where Todd's character charges at Steve. There was a time in between shots where Steve comes and pulls me aside and starts whispering to me. He goes, "Hey, tell those cops to let Todd get through on one of the takes, and I want to see what he does when they don't stop him." You know?
Did you know that,
And-
Tom?
He has faith in me that I'm not going to do something stupid.
Yeah, but the producer in me said for safety reasons, but also for time, I didn't think that was a good idea because it might be hard to get everyone back into character and shoot more scenes after that went down, and of course the safety. But that's what they're talking about.
That would have been interesting.
And I love Steve. That's the truth. I love him.
Love you too.
Well,
baby.
All right,
Todd, I happen to know that you had that experience on another show, you know, had to make sure that craziness didn't happen. So I'm glad it didn't happen here either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
Speaking of shows, real quickly, Cameron, there's something I should mention here just real quickly. During the shutdown, when no new television shows were being shot, because it was available on Prime, over the course of about a month, I binge watched the entire series of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And all of a sudden, in one episode, there you are. So I was like, "That's the guy from Overcomer." He's in
A mere child, yes.
Yeah. All right. Now I asked you all about favorite episodes. Was there any particular scene that you really liked doing, or was there a scene that was a challenge for? I mean, I'm guessing Venus. You really. Was it hard to shoot the scene where you found your brother?
What was hard was having to withhold the tears because I know Jared wanted it to be like a succession of emotion from finding him in the room to the next scene, the funeral scene. So like a build of emotion. And so he didn't want me to, go all out in the room. And so that was hard to find like the way I'm really feeling versus how I need to be feeling. So that was kind of hard, but I love doing the funeral scene. Like and I love that my character has gotten to do so much emotional range of different things. So yeah, that was probably my favorite, was the funeral scene.
So Venus, piggybacking off of that,
Yeah.
the scene at the end of that episode, the look to the camera.
Oh yeah.
How hard was that, and how many takes did that take?
I don't know. 2 takes, Jared? 3?
It was like the end of the night and everybody's ready to go home. And so we're like, "You got 2 takes, Venus."
Yeah, so 2 takes. But no, that one wasn't hard because I know like this dude is the reason my brother's dead. So it was not hard.
It was a good look. I mean,
awesome.
it's perfect.
Now,
Yeah,
Todd,
yeah.
one of your emotional scenes is when you finally go and visit your mother in prison. Were those scenes challenging for you? That seemed like more of your emotional points that your character had this year.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know what was going to happen, and we could not hear each other through the glass. So that was literally acting, watching the lips move, to be honest with you, because we couldn't hear a thing. And thank you, Lord, that the emotion came. But, at the time, I didn't know how that scene would honestly play out, to be honest with you. It was just more of a walk in it in faith and let the words do their thing. And that's what I love. The writing on this show is really good. And so it carries you along.
That actually makes me remember something I wanted to ask Jared. Now, Jared, some writers will have things, like in the back of their mind, like, "Oh, if we do a season 2, we're going to do this." And again, one of the things that I kind of had a theory, I don't want to say I called it, but given the fact that you have done some flashbacks on the show, I can't remember what episode it was, but there was an episode where we see a little boy, and I kind of like, I think that's going to be Travis as a kid, and it turned out it was. I mean, did you have Travis's backstory with his mom planned last year, or did you come up with this year? I guess did you want to find was that kind of a response to the audience wanting to know more about the characters' personal lives? Maybe speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I can't say we planned out a backstory for him. It was just something that, out of necessity of them running into the mother, that we would need to know a little bit. And that particular scene you talked about, episodes 7 through 10, I wrote episodes 1 through 6, and then 7 through 10, we had other writers come in, and Matt Chastain, who wrote that episode, that was really his idea to do the flashback. So when I sat down to read that episode the first time, we had conversations about this needs to happen. Anthony's moment at the camping trip, he knew those things, but there were, fill in the gaps of how do we get there that he had worked on. So when I sat down to read it, I'm reading, okay, little boy, what's this all about? And it wasn't until later in the episode that even I realized, oh, that was Travis as a kid. So he really gets the credit on that one. It wasn't something I had planned out, but I thought it really resonated with audiences of hearing a little bit about where Travis comes from.
Cool. All right. Just real quickly here, Venus just sent us a message. Apparently her front door opened, so she's going to be back here in just a moment. We get a nice picture of her in the meantime. One of the things that I did want to talk about, and Jared and the rest of the cast, and even Dave, you can chime in on this. There's one thing that I think that really makes the show for me, and really think that why the show is making a difference. And I've said this several times. I said it on the first roundtable, and thankfully, Jared, you guys kept it going. I tell people you really should watch Vindication, because Vindication is not just a faith-based cop show, but here's the best part about it. It takes place in our world. And I've said that to people before, and they go like, oh, so what, it's not a sci-fi? And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, I don't want to disrespect anybody. I'm not going to name any names here. But there are some Christian movies that kind of end with everything is all sunshine and rainbows. And that's not how things are. And what I love about Vindication is that you guys tackle some stuff. You guys confront stuff right in the face that other Christian films are afraid to touch with a 10-foot pole. You know what I mean? You don't pull any punches. And I just thought maybe, like, for example, the one that you guys were talking about, Facade, where I think that's the one where the guy is like, another thing that I liked about that show, and I mentioned this to Jared when I was talking to him after watching it, is that particular episode kind of briefly went back to the old formula of the first season, which was Travis and other cops in a room interrogating people and flashbacking to aspects of the crime. They'd kind of moved away from that format at the beginning of the season. And then I was like, oh, this is, and Jared, you said that you guys did that one to let the audience know you guys hadn't forgotten about that. So, I mean, are there any like real world aspects of the show that you guys liked that they included this season? Like I said, I like Facade. Now, some of you might have mentioned that already, but
like I said, that's when I first saw an episode in March 2019 is Jared does not shy away from hot button issues that are impacting us. And I like that. We do not live in a squeaky clean world. It is extremely messy. And it's how do you navigate it as a follower of Christ? And He doesn't shy away from it. And I really, really love that, because you're having truthful conversation and dialogue with people about these issues. And I don't think we can just sweep it under the rug, or like you said, just tie it up in a nice clean bow and say, it's all going to be great and it's all fine.
Yeah.
I think putting it out on the table and dealing with it and truthfully, and that we don't always make the right choice, but there is grace and mercy and forgiveness, which, going back to episode 9, is that whole cancel culture. I think I love that Jared addresses that as well with Joe Anderson's character.
Right.
Mhm.
No,
I applaud Jared. I think
Mhm.
hats off to him.
You know, without a doubt, I think that this is part of what I mean when I talk about the fact that we are a part of history. When you take a look at the church evolving, there are certain things that happen in society and whatever you want to call it, that you can pinpoint where the bench, where it was a benchmark of something changing. And I think Vindication kind of falls into that mold, because I think we have to understand that we are part of a genre that has certain restrictions, that we come into it that way. And so people may not like always to see this squeaky clean kind of a thing, but the reality is that they have nerves that don't allow them to see the reality of life sometimes on the screen. And I think what Jared has done is that he has taken the mantle, if you would, of being able to be the one or the show that evolves the church into the reality base of who we are, what we deal with, how we deal with it, how we win, how we lose, and all those kind of things. And I think as actors, we get an opportunity to bring that to the screen, and you get to see real life happening visually in front of you. And now how you can actually go through the whole landscape of your own life and make a better choice, but having to do that in real situations. And so I think that this is part of history. I think that we are extremely benefiting or the benefactors of the mind of Jared, but also the courage to do it. And I think that through this, we will cause the distribution people to evolve. And I think a lot of what has happened within Christian film is that we have been held into this box based on distributors and the prudeness of the Christian sector. And so now I think that we're getting an opportunity to get beyond that and breathe in this atmosphere. And I think Vindication will just go down in history as something that really made that happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Joe Anderson, the story of, there were so many people, if you look at the Vindication group, that were like, I really thought that it was a mistake, and Joe Anderson was there just trying to witness to her. And now all of a sudden we get this reality that, hey, even though he's this great man of God, he's also a flawed human being.
Right.
Yeah.
And we see the beauty of that storyline. And we also see that there is a way that you can come alongside somebody that's fallen into sin, that made a mistake, support them as a human being, as a brother or sister in Christ, without condoning the behavior. And I think that what Cameron is alluding to is, the prudish nature of the church is when somebody falls, we want a distance because we don't want our witness hurt. Our testimony can't be hurt by his sin.
Oh, yeah.
But our testimony can be greatly enhanced by showing how to love somebody through a fall, through a struggle. And I just think that that's beautiful. And just, again, kudos to Jared for tackling things like in season 1, the sexting thing with the teenagers, the human trafficking, which is my favorite episode, of all time, just because I work with women who survive sex trafficking. So it's just the ability to handle those issues with reality, with grace, and without ending with those happy sunshine and rainbows Hallmark moments. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, one of my favorite, if you don't mind, I wanted to say something. One of my favorite moments, one other thing about what I said about how this show takes place in the real world is, Jared, you're not afraid to show that doing the right thing is not always easy. I mean, like, case in point, a lot of people are upset when Chris's brother gets arrested and when Joe gets arrested. Well, yeah, it's sad, but they broke the law. You know what I mean? They broke the law, so that's not easy to watch, but that's the case. And one is when Travis fires those 2 lazy cops who at the beginning of the season, and that results in like 2 or 3 more police officers, I think, walking out. And that's a perfect example of Travis doing the right thing and not getting like a Hallmark ending because he did the right thing. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do, because I really didn't like those guys. One of my favorite scenes. I really liked it when Travis fired him. I'll be honest with you. But one of those guys is actually my Facebook friend. I thought about inviting him. But anyway. Yeah. Hey, Candace, you were actually my Facebook friend before you were on the show. I didn't even realize that. So anyway, I'm constantly networking, trying to. Okay. Now, here is a question that I have. And like I said, I don't think, Jared, I don't think this one applies to you. But does anybody, I'm assuming that Jared is if any of you have seen the show, you know about the big cliffhanger. Someone is in a body bag, and whoever it is, Detective Travis clearly knows them. Does anybody, I'm guessing that nobody but Jared here probably knows, because one thing that I've told is that a lot of creators don't tend to share future ideas with actors in the hope of getting it out. Does anybody have any theories or hopes as to who it is?
I think it's Janet.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
somehow they got
there.
Janet involved.
It's not
I
Janet.
think it's Anthony, honestly. I mean, I don't know why I think that, but I guess wrong place, wrong time, trying to do the right thing.
Anthony's
But-
the kid who was living with the Travises, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm thinking, unless it's the Jared, let me tell you something right now. If it turns out to be the no-name henchman who is standing beside Steve, that's a cop-out. I'm sorry, that is a cop-out. I don't think that Travis would be looking sadly at somebody like that. And Todd, I'm guessing even is that challenging as an actor? What kind of direction did Jared give you because he couldn't tell you who it was? Because I've heard of cases where actors are acting something that the audience is not supposed to know, but they don't really know either. Like I've heard, like they'll say, I don't know what I was acting to. I don't know what I've seen.
I was thinking that too, Todd.
Well, honestly, I don't remember the specific direction, but I remember interpreting it as this is, well, golly, I don't know that I can say too much. I'm looking at somebody that maybe I recognize, and there's a moment there. So that was the gist of it. It doesn't mean I actually know them or not, but that's kind of how I interpreted it. How's that for being vague, Jared?
Yeah, I thought, now you can correct me if this is wrong, but when we were talking about it beforehand, I told you it's not Becky Travis in there, but someone along that line. How would you respond? You're a professional. You're not gonna fall to your knees in tears. But I think I may have mentioned like Becky's name is, give me something along those lines. Do you remember that?
I don't remember specifically, but I remember hearing you say something. It's somebody important, at least along those lines, somebody that I would recognize. But anyway,
we know it's not
those
me.
are tricky.
You would have smiled.
Yeah, I
about
would.
it.
I do remember it was near the end of filming, and I was talking to Jared about, if we get to do season 3, and I was saying something about Becky in season 3, and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "We don't know who's in that body bag."
No, the crime scene though. Peggy, you weren't at the crime scene though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where the body bag was? I love that we don't even know. I love that it's a toss-up for
Speaking as a writer, the only people who make sense are Anthony, Tomlinson, or Chris. It's got to be one of those three. And the truth is, either one gets you a different story. Which brings me to a question I want to ask Jared here. Jared, Mr. O'Flaherty, you are under oath, sir. There's one thing I've learned from my years. There's one thing that I've learned from my years of studying television and writing. Writers tend to do cliffhangers one of two ways. They either do a cliffhanger to give themselves options and then decide later on what they're going to do, or they do a cliffhanger to keep the audience guessing like a magic trick. Perfect example. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the show The Mentalist, but Bruno Heller, the creator of that show, said that for years they had this off-screen serial killer they were chasing called Red John. And he even admitted that he didn't know Red John's true identity until the show was a couple years old. He figured it out later on. So he was kind of making it up as he went along. Okay. So Jared, I would never expect you to give a spoiler out or anything like that, but I'm going to ask you this question. It's a simple yes or no question. Do you know who's in the body bag?
Yes.
I love Jared's poker face. Like he won't give away anything.
So you know what direction you're going in. Let's put it that way.
Well, the reason I said Janet is for job security, because Jared will never, ever do what is obvious. So if somebody is saying, oh, it should do this, then you never know where he's going to take it. So I keep putting Janet out there. That means Janet gets to stay on.
I will say, though, that I don't think it can be Bill Tomlinson, because I'm a continuity nerd, and the body in the bag was not big enough to be Steve Mokate.
So you're saying it's either me or Anthony?
Yeah, unless somebody chopped his legs off. Just saying.
So pretty much me and Anthony got to start slipping Jared money under the table, right?
Yeah, but you also don't know if somebody
stuck on season 3.
Yeah, but you also don't know if somebody else has wandered up that was not pictured. You know what I mean?
Well, in my opinion, Candace, that wouldn't make Todd's reaction make sense, and that's kind of the same cop out if it's Steve's henchman is dead.
Yeah, but what if we go into sci-fi and it's really me in the body bag?
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. Actually, funny thing is,
Is
I have.
there a possibility that Joe Anderson came after Steve? I don't know. Who knows?
Wasn't he still in prison?
It could
Wasn't he
be
still in jail
anything.
at the time? Wouldn't he still have been in jail at the time that happened?
No,
No, he's
he
already
got
out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's out.
Like I said, sorry, I watched the season once.
Because
Sorry.
Doris.
he read his
Doris.
Bible, got straight
Yeah.
with himself, went back home and got his gun, went after Steve. No, just kidding.
No, Doris got
Well,
out of jail and she went there.
actually, I have
know
my
who
own.
it is.
Go ahead, Venus. Go ahead.
It's Steve Mocate's wife in the series because she was wondering where he was going at night and then followed him there. And then Todd knows her. Boom.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, that's a good.
Okay, I just
I
added
have
that
my
in. I know
own
that
theory.
we don't know who Steve's wife is.
I
What's
have
your
my own
theory,
theory.
Scott?
I have my
I
own
think
theory.
I
About,
turned to one of my henchmen and killed them to show Chris how serious I am.
well, I have my own theory about
That's-
who it is, but I can't share it here. And there's a reason why I can't share it here. It's because on one of the many phone conversations that Jared and I had, he told me about something he's toying with doing next season, and I don't think it's something I'm supposed to mention publicly. But because I know about this thing, that leads me to believe something. So I can't I can't share it here, unfortunately.
I was just going to throw out that whoever is in the body bag, that doesn't mean that they are not going to appear in a future season, because we can always have flashbacks of what was going on in their life and all that. So if it comes out that certain people are on set, that would not eliminate them from being who's in the body bag.
And that is what he told me. Thank you very much. That is what he told me, that he's toying with the idea of doing flashbacks next season. So I was trying to think from a story standpoint of who telling the backstory would make the most sense, and I have my own theory. So
Well, that wouldn't be a new thing, Scott. We've done a few flashbacks in the
all
past.
right.
so that would not be
But I didn't know. Look, you told me in a conversation you were thinking about doing some flashbacks to the time in between the two seasons, and I didn't know if that was something you wanted me to say here or not. So
yeah, I'll add, you gave me a yes or no question and didn't let me elaborate. There was this cultural phenomenon in the 80s, really before I was old enough to know about it, this Who Shot JR thing. And that was something that we really thought about going into season 2 and knowing how it was going to end, was let's make sure that there are plenty of possibilities of who it could be, what could have happened, so that people would have conversations just like we're having right now. So that really was a part of the process when we got to episodes like 6 through 10, is let's open up enough options that when it happens, it's not just clear, oh, this is what happened. And I will say, if Tomlinson is in the body bag, it will make me very popular, because I've got texts and messages of people wanting him dead. So
And those are just
That
my
means
wife.
you've done your job well, Steve. Those are just your
I'm tired of my wife texting you that stuff.
Right.
I do have to say, man, Steve, you have handled that role.
Yes.
Man,
Thank you,
I
Karen.
mean, when an actor flips on you like that and you love to hate him,
Yeah.
and everybody wants you gone and dead, is because of how how well you just crept into that body of that
Yeah.
character. So,
Thank
man,
you. That means a lot from you. Thank you.
Yep.
awesome
My
stuff.
mother-in-law kept asking me when we would watch it, is he really that much of a jerk in real life? No, not at all. Well, he's a real jerk.
When I was hitting on you in your office, you watched that with her. That one did.
I did.
Because you texted me
yeah.
while you were watching.
Hey,
Dave-
we all
Dave-
know that Tomlinson takes care of his people.
Right?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll say Dave may have caught this. Maybe the jerkiest Tomlinson moment is when he's at that retirement party and he's talking to Travis, and how flippantly he talks about what happened with Chris's brother. He's almost
Yes.
laughing about it. And that was a Steve. I'm like, hey, let's do it a couple different ways. And that was the most animated of all of them. But the way he talks about it, I'm just like, that is probably the most cold-hearted moment he may have had throughout the whole season.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So this. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I give kudos to the reveal, the voice on the line when the creepy property owner is calling.
Oh,
And
yeah.
You hear the voice, and you're like, wait a minute, and then it cuts to him in the truck, and you're like, he is a creep.
Yeah.
Yes. That
I
was a good
really
one.
like the reveal.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That was kind of the moment where he went from being a creep to a full-blown corrupt cop, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because I wasn't sure. I was back and forth with myself. Okay, is this guy just a politically ambitious cop who plays dirty, or is he actually dirty? And eventually we find out, yeah, he's actually dirty. So,
Yep.
which actually is a good segue into the next question here. Assuming you're not the person in the body bag, okay? Do you have anything, and maybe this can be, maybe you can consider this, maybe Jared, you can take notes. Is there anything you'd like to see happen to your character in the future? And a stunned silence filled the room.
Are you talking to Steve?
I'm talking to any of you. Any of you.
Oh.
Any of you can, this is anyone can chime in who wants to.
Well, for me,
I-
it's fun.
oh.
The darker he gets, the better. It's more fun for me the darker he gets. So I'd like for him to keep on going down that road, if I'm still alive.
Yes.
If I'm still alive, I love, I was telling Jared this the other day. I love that my character, I feel like she is a representation of so many people in the world who are good people, but that doesn't get you to heaven. They're not bad
Right.
people. They care about others. They care about, causes, all this stuff, but they aren't going to heaven by being a good person. So I love that Chris encompasses that whole chunk of people. And also, like, I look forward to the day that she does become a Christian, like Todd did, his whole change, but it's probably way down the road if I'm still in the show.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's one thing I hope for
I
her.
love your line. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, he's one of the big ones.
Oh, I know. I love that. I love that.
Anybody else? Todd, Peggy?
I told Jared, I just don't want to be the brunt of everybody's joke when it comes to working out and running and any of those things. So I want to be in better shape if we go back to season 3.
I had lunch with
If you learn how
Todd
to
last
cook
week.
and serve you
Ordering
some better
water and
food.
salad. And
That's right.
All right.
I was joking about Becky not being able to cook, and after that spaghetti she gave you, I thought, yeah, poor Becky just cannot cook.
I think one of the things I'd like to see with Joe is, if he's still in the show, I would like to see maybe some of the friction that happens at home throughout all this, and how they get through it, and what changes that it makes towards him. I think that he's been in, like, even as Jared said, everybody just saw him as the pastor, but I think maybe how this kind of changes his personality some, as to where that takes him, not only at home but also now as an individual. How much more forceful is he become, more activist? How does that work now that he's on that side? Because that's still something that's kind of heavy, that lingers with you, even though you're forgiven by your brothers. But the fact that you're able to go through that to that point also has kind of changed you some kind of way.
Yeah.
The one thing that and I asked it in the Vindy Nation group is, do we see, if both Joe and Tomlinson are still in the show after the body bag in season 3, do we get to see any resolution from the bump on Joe's head when he was arrested? Do we address police brutality? Do we address things like that? And I don't know if Jared has a plan for that, but that's something that I would be interested in seeing if you want to take that risk. And we know that Jared is not afraid of taking risks.
Well, you're right. He's already tackling police corruption, that's for sure, with Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to interject something that was spoken about earlier about Joe's character and cancel culture and the direction we went with it, and how he found forgiveness in his men's group and all that. I think there's one key factor there that could be missing in a lot of our society, but it was in Vindication, especially with Joe's character. It's that when he was in jail and when Travis came to talk with him and they started getting into it, did you notice there were no excuses? He fessed up to what went on. He didn't tell lies. He didn't try to cover for himself. He didn't, and I think that's a key factor to finding that forgiveness, is the fact that he, from the get-go, the first words out of his mouth were not excuses and everything else. And I really appreciate that. I know something that, as we were working on that episode, I was kind of like, that needs to be there, because otherwise, what do we see in our culture? It's some half put together apology and and this and that, but and all that. So I just really appreciate that. I thought, and
the way you had Todd's character respond to him was great too.
And by the end of the episode, I think most everyone came away and said, even though he wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time, or he was trying to witness to her, I still like Joe because he did fess up to it.
And also Cameron did such an incredible job in that.
Yes.
You really, I'm sorry, I'm going to get teared up. You really feel for his character. Because like he said, I think he said, I don't know, does he say Satan won this time or I lost the battle this time?
He was in my throat.
I tried to pray and Satan was in my throat.
Yeah.
One of the things that
I
happened.
think he said I lost this time.
Yes,
yeah,
and
one
I
thing that
lost
happened
this
in
time.
that scene is I know Jared and I got together and we talked about where he wanted the whole Joe thing to happen, and as far as the situation. But we kind of talked about real life situations that have happened, in my life and in people's lives that we know, and how to really put that together and how to bring it to life. And I think what Jared was dealing with in the sense of fessing up and doing that and being very real about it is that the situation that happened with Joe was something that I know that Jared and I talked about that had happened in a piece of when I was like, 20 years old, 20, going up between 20 and 30 years old, and the aspect of people not realizing the pressure that kind of thing is, as opposed to, we think about pornography, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, when you're dealing with the aspect of porn, it's like being a drug addict.
Yeah.
That you have this kind of pressure that's on you and people don't realize. They just say, well, hey, you shouldn't watch porn, but they don't realize, it's like taking, being on cocaine, and you can't just say you shouldn't, snort it. Well, there's a chemical reaction. There's something that you have been attacked in such a way. And so I think that was part of what we wanted to talk about too, is the, what kind of a pressure is on an individual that's in that situation. I thought the writing brought that out really well.
Yeah.
I got to say, that's what I absolutely love about this show. What you were talking about, Cameron, it's about the roots of things in our behavior. And there's always deep roots in things that cause us to do whatever we do. And I love that the show does that because it's always an opener for new storylines, which I think gives Jared a ton of stuff to work with. But kudos to Jared and how he writes all these episodes.
There are two characters that I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. One, if he's not in the body bag, is what's going to happen with Anthony. If Anthony's not in the body bag, where his life is going to go from here, because he has shown us that he is such an amazing young man. And so I'm curious to see where his life is going to go from here. And if he is in the body bag, what it's going to do to Becky, because I think it'll be really difficult for her. But then also the fact that Doris is getting out soon, and where is she going to go, and what's going to happen with her life going forward.
And also what's in that letter.
And what's in that letter.
Combining what you just said, Peggy, and what you said, Todd, about roots, I'm curious to know where Steve's character is going to go as far as what made him a bad cop. Like, what's the root there? Because he probably didn't start out bad, but I'm sure there's a story about home life or police life or something that got you to go there.
I'd be interested in seeing that myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd also think you and that other girl are going to continue to fight over Kevin.
I don't know what's going to go on with the love triangle. I have no idea.
But even
Sorry, I had to. I'm sorry.
Even the writing on that is so incredibly clever. Like when he shows Venus's character, when he shows Chris the ring, and then he scrambles his GPS so he can go run an errand for Chris, and her little comment, well, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
Even that is brilliant.
Yeah. Ask Jared that, Scott. I don't know.
Yeah, well, actually, the next question last question I had on here for Jared is I'm guessing, obviously you can't tell us who's in the body bag, but is there anything you can tell us of where season 3 might go, assuming there is one?
There is one.
Assuming there is one, like Scott just said.
Okay, maybe it wasn't the best choice of words. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you something from the discussions that have happened. Is that a season 3, if it were to happen, would not have 10, 8, 10, 12 episodes or whatever of individual crimes. Instead, it would be more of a whole season built around the murder, the crime that we see at the end of season 2, and really digging into that. And then, of course, some of these characters that we talked about, what happened to Tomlinson between season 1 and 2, what's going on with Doris, some of those things I think would be explored in the process. But it wouldn't be okay, well, somebody's in the body bag, put them in the ground, let's go back to investigating, missing cars and cats in trees. Instead, it would be a real deep dive on that, which obviously would probably say that murder is not immediately solved with clear-cut answers. So yeah, that's kind of the plan, should it continue.
Yeah, well, like exactly what you said. I mean, shows these days have become so flashback happy, whether it be a show like This Is Us or a show like Person of Interest that came out a couple of years ago, that the truth is just because your character dies doesn't mean you're out of work. Because I mean, the guy who stars on This Is Us, his character's been dead since 10 years before the show started, and he's still working on the show. So, but anyway, okay. Dave, quick thing for you. I had said to you, maybe have a list of questions you might want to ask these people as a fan. I don't know if you've asked any of them or if you actually did that, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity here just before we wrap things up.
The biggest thing is I want to just compliment Todd again, because he had so many really good moments this season. The moment where he's talking to the young lady as the dad instead of the cop. The moment, the final moment when he's reconciling with his mom. That moment was huge. And then when he's talking to Joe's daughter, when he comes in and he gives that message to her.
I love that scene.
I'm sorry?
I love that scene.
Yeah.
She is so precious. Soleil, the actor. Oh, so authentic. It just, she was great.
And I think that if there are, if there are awards that this show could be nominated for, that Todd has got to be a shoo-in, because he nailed so many moments this year. And, those are just 3 that I can think of. And of course, when he asked if Exodus was in the front or the back, that was also. But Steve, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Is it more fun for you to play the bad guy, or is it fun for you to play the good guy? Because me, as a former pro wrestler, I relish being the heel, the bad guy. But for you, which is more fun? Which is more rewarding?
Oh, definitely the bad guy. Yeah, it's been a blast. The worse he gets, the more fun it is for me. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever been a bad guy before. I've only been acting for about 15 years, but I don't remember ever being a bad guy, at least not to this level. So yeah, I'm loving this.
Alan Caggiano, who directed me in my very first film I was ever in, a film called Dark Disciple. It's on Amazon if you want to check it out. He once told me that a film can survive a weak hero, but not a weak villain, which is one of the reasons why Steven Seagal's adversaries are always these Oscar-winning actors. So, but anyway.
Yeah, Steve does an amazing job at this character. I give him a lot of grief, but he's really, really great at it. Everybody in this show, I just got to say, everyone brings it every time, and it's just awesome. It's awesome to be a part of a show like that.
Yep.
And it all happened by accident. You thought it was going to be a one-off short film, right, Todd?
Yep.
That was the first time.
That's all I thought it was. I mean, Jared, obviously, I don't know if Jared thought about it before, but I still remember the date that he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." And Venus was there too, and she wasn't even part of the show at the time.
Right.
And that's what's so cool to think back on that we've come this far. It's awesome.
Yeah, because just to throw that in there for y'all that don't know, when I met Jared and Todd at the Attic Film Fest, that was the last run. That was right, Jared. Like that was the last time you were going to show Vindication. You were going to shelf it. Like you had done the festival run, and that was it.
Oh yeah, I mean the festival run was over. It was just it had come out. The first episode had come out on DVD, and that was like what was happening. It was the end of it. There were no future plans. It's funny how I met Venus, because in episode 1 of Vindication, the 3 or 4 actresses that we have in were all from out of state. And, so we had to fly him in. I did not know a single actress in the state of Texas. And there was this film festival that we're going to in Austin for Vindication. And they had like a Facebook group of the event, where you could see people that were on there. So I started like going through it to see if there were any actors or actresses in Texas, because I didn't know any. And this Venus pops up on there that is the host. So I, click and okay, who is this? Looked up her IMDb, and she had these like YouTube videos of a traveling actress, of the going to auditions and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, hey, when I get to this festival, I'm gonna go meet her. I'm gonna find, just so I'll know someone in Texas that can act. And so like I do go up to her the first time. She has no clue who I am. I've watched all these videos. I'm like first name basis. I'm like, hey, Venus, what's going on? And like I go back to my buddies afterwards, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that was probably the most creepy, awful thing I could have done by going up. So, and that honest truth, that's how we met. First time we ever saw each other in person.
And Jared, isn't it true that when someone suggested to you that this could be a series, and your response was, well, Ben Davies' character is vindicated at the end, there's nowhere to go, and then they said, no, I'm talking about the cop, not him.
That's absolutely correct. Todd does interviews and gives me lots of credit that I had this great idea. No, my thinking was very limited. I thought it was over with. And then they asked, yeah, could you do another episode of the same cop? So episode 2, which the one y'all said was the sexting episode, a lot of those story elements were based off of my own personal testimony as a teenager, how I came to Christ. Now, we didn't have phones and that sort of thing, but back in the 90s, there were other routes. But so, yeah, that's all I thought was the end of it there, and once the order came in for episodes 3 and 4, that's when you meet Venus and Steve and Peggy, because it was like, okay, this may keep going. So we're going to need a few more characters to keep this afloat.
Because the first 2 episodes are contained and you didn't know you were going anywhere, it's probably one of the reasons why Todd is going to retain his record as the only person who's in every episode. So, anyway.
Well, Jared, I got one question I didn't get to ask when you were on my podcast. Was Morning Rift Venus's audition for Vindication?
Let's have her answer that. I've done enough talking.
I kind of felt like it was. I mean, I don't know that it was, but I think it was more like, how are we going to get along on set? How does she act? Does she complain? Is she dramatic? Blah, blah, blah. And I kind of feel like it was just Jared, like feeling out what kind of person I am. But I did still have to audition for Vindication. So
yeah, we filmed Morning Rift in June in Texas. She drove 3 to 4 hours from where she lived to where we were filming. As far as I recall, didn't get paid, was all doing it just volunteer basis, stayed out there in the heat with us. We shot the whole thing in one day. And when someone's willing to do that, it speaks a lot of the character of who you're working with. And of course, the performance was there as well. So yes, I did make her audition for Chris, but if we dig up the folder of old auditions, it is the only audition that was ever requested for that character. So yeah.
Well, speaking of auditions, I don't know if any of you know this, but I actually auditioned for the second season.
Of Vindication?
Yes, I did. I auditioned for one of Todd's nightmare interviewees.
Oh, fun. Oh, those were so much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, I recorded myself doing 2 of them. But Jared, Jared, how do I put this? Having seen the episode, I'm glad you didn't pick me. I think that I'm glad they were so blink and you miss it roles. I'm like, man, if I ever have a chance to be on Vindication, I'd like something a little longer than that. So hopefully, maybe someday, you never know.
Well, I also think you had some travel limitations because of COVID at the time. So you even reached out and said, that could be a concern. So.
Thankfully, those are all gone now. So there's all the restrictions. It's also the reason why, well, not to do a commercial, it's also the reason why Sean Justice and Robert Shepard and I were able to do our short film that we're actually taking a cue from the Vindication playbook from. We shot it with the intention of it being a pilot. It's something that can either stand alone or could be turned into a series. And so we crowdfunded the short film, and it's going to hopefully be working the circuits over the next year. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's called Lucifer and the Father. So be on the lookout for it. It's basically what if the scene in Heat between De Niro and Pacino were God and Lucifer having a conversation, just sitting in it. So yeah, I'm joining the ranks of people who have served God by playing the devil, which Cameron, I believe you have done as well.
Yes, I have, and like Steve was saying, it's very interesting playing that evil role. 'Cause, I mean, most of most of what I've done has been, again, the nice guy, the good guy. And so getting into these kind of other things, you get an opportunity to just really sink into it and have a whole different vantage point of who Lucifer is and who these bad guys are. So yeah.
And it may not have been named Lucifer, but if you have seen Discarded Things,
Yes.
that man is the devil.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, got an opportunity to really get into that. I really enjoyed that one.
So, Dave, did you have any more questions or?
Fun question for Venus. How fun was the model walk-in in the beginning of the second season?
That one was difficult. I don't know how many times we had to.
I think everybody had a comment on that one.
Yeah.
It's hard because it makes you conscious of how you're walking, which you're never conscious of it until you have to walk a certain way. And then I was like, oh snap. Yeah.
That and Candace's walk in to the football practice.
I love Candace's walk in. And I love TC's face whenever he sees her too.
He's got a tennis racket, man.
Well, I like the whole interchange with the coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. I love that there's the humor sprinkled throughout this whole show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, on the first roundtable, Todd, you were mentioning that I was asking, what kind of things have you come up with? And you had mentioned to me in season 2, you realized that Travis is very protective of his stuff and his food. I saw that. I was looking for that in season 2, and there's definitely examples there. So,
So Candace, how many times did you have to rehearse the behind the back pass to TC?
Not at all. What happened though is like I actually do play football. I had to send Jared a demo reel because before he would rewrite it and include me, I had to show him that I actually could play. But Janet is not supposed to play very well. But I mean, we played, for the earlier shots. I mean, you really see TC shining in his element. I mean, it was amazing. The guy's 43 and he's incredible. But, Janet had to be reeled in and be a little more dweebish. But when
I love her.
we were doing all the shots in the daytime, then we came back to shoot it. We did the choreography during the daytime. When we came back to shoot it at nighttime, when Todd is throwing me the ball, now I can't see because the lights are directly in our eyes. I mean, I couldn't even see to catch it. And I had, and thinking, man, now we have a full audience and they think, golly, why they bring her in? But anyway, I just said, okay, Todd, you're going to have to, throw the pass a little lower and outside so it's not catching in the lights. But behind the back pass, that's fun. I actually grew up playing on a guy's football team.
Nice.
And Venus and Chris Tanner actually is a phenomenal football player as well. So it was hard for her to like, oh yeah, she is not going to let Travis steal the ball from her. There's no way, unless it was directed as such. So anyway, us girls were holding our own.
You know how Janet was always coming to the huddle saying like, hey, I'm open, or throw me a ball, or I can pass rush, or that wasn't hard to come up with because that was Candace Kirkpatrick also saying, can we ride in where I catch a deep ball, or can I at least do one or do this or do that? And I'm like, okay, well, this is what Janet would be doing as well. So we'll just add that to the script.
So did you have a stunt arm, or was Todd actually throwing some of those passes?
Hey, I was throwing them.
Nice.
Jared
was
did
really
not
catching him.
believe I could throw the ball. I will say I feel grateful that I didn't throw some ducks, but I was fortunate enough to throw a few to TC that he caught. So grateful. But Jared probably threw some of those passes.
In the practice sequence where Trey is out there catching all the passes and doing that, I was actually throwing all of those. I was the quarterback for that sequence. You just never see me.
But that is a phenomenal sequence. It really is.
Yeah.
All of those incredible shots of him, going long, going deep, going, cutting.
which team won the game again? I don't remember that.
2.
Okay, I thought so. I wasn't. I
That's
told
a
you.
lot.
I watched the first.
They let the
I
clock
watched
go
the
to
first
it.
season only once, so like I said, I didn't remember all the details.
I did tell TC when I saw him doing all that running, I just really had to say thank you, Jesus, that it wasn't me.
Yeah. Speaking of TC, I just want to let everybody know watching, he was not forgotten about. I couldn't get a hold of him for this. So unfortunately, every so often, my roundtables have a history of one person who I invited always finding out about it just in time to be too late. Like, for example, the actress who played Michael Higginbottom's wife in The Grace Guard, for example, she found my message on Instagram 3 days after we shot the Grace Guard reunion. So there's always one of the things that you know. I come from a background of cold calling as a entertainer, so I put feelers out to as many people as I can, and I take whoever responds. And sometimes you don't hear from people. So TC was not forgotten. I just didn't hear from him. So that's the reason why he is not here. But clearly, he is on the minds of people. So I just wanted to mention that. So
Absolutely.
He was not. I just wanted to clarify. He was not left out of this on purpose. Okay.
Oh no, he's a busy guy. That guy
Yeah.
works all the time. So
And I'm looking forward to see more of his backstory, because the way he acted in the Gary Nation episode about with the racism and stuff, there was something deeper there than just this is just some random guy who's a racist. Seemed like there's something deeper. Are we going to see more of that with TC in season 3, maybe?
I'm not going to answer that one. Sorry. I will mention you brought up a handful of scenes like Travis and his mother, and when he talks to Joe's daughter. I get a lot of messages and not emails, but messages usually about the scene between Travis and Trey when they're sitting in the car, they're munching on some waffle fries, and they just have a real honest conversation about race relations. And I do get a lot of messages from people about that particular scene as one that stands out to them in season 2, and one that they go back to a lot.
Because they liked it, right?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Because
that was good.
it's genuine. It's
Yeah.
genuine dialogue that we should be having.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's actually one of the episodes I did manage to rewatch. And Jared, you'll have to forgive me here. I don't understand. So what, did the guy pretend his tractor was stolen? I'm not clear on what Travis and Trey are arresting him for at the end of the episode.
Well, hopefully someone else can answer that for me.
I
or we
can
can
answer
stop.
Yeah. Okay.
There was some deep investigation there. Uh,
About 4
yeah,
inches. of the
basically,
trace.
from what I remember, there was a trailer, and the tractor was supposedly on the trailer, and TC noticed the tracks. I may be getting this wrong, but it was in those veins, correct?
Right.
And so he did do something illegal.
He set up his own stealing of his own tractor so that he could get the insurance money.
That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. But I wasn't sure. At the moment when TC says to you, but he didn't report a stolen trailer, I was like, okay, I didn't quite get how they arrived at that conclusion. Maybe it just whoosh. It just did that to me. I don't know. There's something.
Dave, did it work for you? Would you have been able to answer that?
Yeah, for me watching it, because I'm a real fan, unlike Scott. No, I'm kidding. I picked it up that,
I'm a fan on a budget, okay? So I have to work.
Oh, me too.
Okay.
I'm actually at work right now.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I mean, that episode was really cool because, you understand why he did it, because, he's a veteran that's struggling.
Yeah.
In the early part of the show, there's something on the news about veterans benefits getting cut.
Yeah.
And so here's somebody that's just trying to live, and the only thing of value he has is his tractor. So if he can collect the insurance money off of that, he's going to be okay.
Right.
But he's also a very troubled man, because if you have a lot of melanin in your skin, he's not going to trust you very much.
Right.
So I think that I think it played well, and like I said, in that final scene where Gary Nation's got the gun on him and he takes it back, there's something deeper there, I think, and I would really like to see in season 3 maybe TC gets a little bit more backstory to him.
Well, anyway, I think we're actually just about out of time here, because unfortunately I do have to get off to my event. Normally we wrap it up because somebody else has to do something, whether it's a show or they have a real estate appointment. I'm not going to name names here, but but anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. Is there anything anybody wants to say before we sign off here?
I want to take another picture now that our mystery guest is revealed.
Go right ahead. Well, actually, you can do that after we're done recording. Yeah, you can do that. We can do that when we're done recording. We won't be off air. But I want to thank.
I just want to say it is such an honor to be on this series and to work with this incredible group of people. I love Jared. I love what he's doing. I love his writing. I love his direction. I love the people behind the camera. It's a big, huge family. And I love the people that I am blessed to work with. It is such an honor to show up.
Even the crew, like,
Yeah,
the crew,
everyone.
big time.
Mhm.
They're amazing.
And I want to give a
I
huge
think we
shout
can-
out to Cameron and Steve for joining us from on the road, wherever they're at.
Yeah,
So,
we're clearly
they're
both in
busy
hotel
guys.
rooms.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hotel. That's right.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna put. I noticed that too, but I wasn't gonna put.
Let
them
that
on the spot.
hotel door right behind them. Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
It's funny.
You know,
Yeah, they were
I-
pounding on my
I
door a
think-
minute
I
ago,
think-
trying to get me out of here.
I think we need to prepare ourselves for when we're sitting around talking about, wow, we're doing season 10. You know,
Come on.
We've already got season 11 shirts. I mean,
That's right.
we're
Absolutely.
good.
no, you know,
Yeah.
I think Vindication is really that important. I mean, I know that we're just talking about whatever, but I really think that it's that important to the atmosphere of the faith-based realm. And so I like Candace, I think that it's really an honor when
Yeah.
again, when I got an opportunity to understand and know that I was actually going to be on the show, it was I was ecstatic, because doing this kind of work among this kind of people with the writing and everything else on this side of it for Christ, and that's man, what an honor. I think that again, God has chosen each and every one of us to be a part of that, you know, connecting of the dots for us, and to be a part of this is mind-blowing. I'm extremely ecstatic about that.
Yeah,
Well-
and the show can't end until Katie Travis's son enlists in the police academy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you said season 11, and I know that Todd had a birthday just recently. So if this makes season 11, that means Detective Travis will be rooted by the time you guys get there. So
No one needs to talk about my age.
yeah, I know, right? Anyway, on that note, I want to thank you all for being here. Everybody out there, thanks for watching, and check out Vindication season 2 on PureFlix or on Amazon. And thank you all for being here.
God bless.